All right. Can you hear me now on the stream?
I can hear you. Yes, let me check the stream. I can hear you here. Let me check the stream.
Cool. Now, how do we now? Can you back out to people because now they have to like get a new link.
Yeah.
All right. I feel like we.
Let me check and make sure that the.
I feel like that technical issue just cost us our entire audience, but whatever.
Okay, yeah, the audio is working.
Okay, cool. And I'm not gonna try to mess with the
All right,
background
let
anymore
me send it out.
because last time I did, it got it got us stuck in a control room. It got me stuck in a control room that like
Yeah.
caused me to not be able to do anything.
If we do this again, we should try and figure out like some background thing.
Yeah, that would be better. It's just again like this time it took me to a place where I like literally just got disconnected from the entire stream because it took me to like the task manager. All right. Now I'm gonna wait for the people to come back though before we start, just so that people don't get back and we're like mid story and no one knows what the frick is happening. Anyhow, let's hope that our audience is gonna come back. Um.
All right, I'm sending it out.
Were those your people who were in the stream earlier, or was that like just straight up channel people?
Those were my people.
Oh, those were them. Okay, so in that case, we'll get people in probably in about 30 seconds.
Yeah.
All right, I'm assuming Harsha Rajarajan is one of them.
I think so. Yes.
All right. All right, I sent the link to you by mistake. Let me see. Let me just get some things straight. And all right. So we currently have 4 people on. We should be getting more in a second, assuming that people choose to come back.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give people a second to return before we like get started.
Good idea. Give it a couple minutes. How is everyone doing?
I think Harsha left.
Oh no. All right, that's fine.
I'll
We still
give
have 3 viewers. We can give it a.
Yeah. Well, 3 viewers. Two of those are us.
Right.
Oh wait, is that
All
or
right, we
not?
can give
Maybe
it a
not.
couple.
Maybe I don't know how this works.
No, I think it's 3 total.
3 total. Okay, got you. Um. All right. Let's see. So I'm gonna give until 10 minutes to get people back in.
Do, 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 do.
Because we had good audience before I had that tech issue. Before it took me to the freaking control room and I couldn't get out of it.
Yeah, how many people did we have? Did we have on?
I got a guy hopping in.
Oh, great. Okay, wonderful.
Oh, yep, there we go. We just went up to 4. Alright. I'm going to give until about 15 minutes, and then we're going to get started. Does that work?
So till 45.
Um, until I was gonna say until the stream clock hits 15. Right now it's at 6, so that's like 9 more minutes.
Okay.
All right, let's see. Just to because I know you had a tech issue. Anyhow, but yeah. For those of you guys who are just hopping on, because I know there's some people here who don't know what it is. Um, the Lord Starkiller story. Essentially, he kills Vader, then is turned into a machine by the Emperor, and then kills Obi-Wan, then turns Luke to the dark side on Hoth. And then this guy right here, this is the Starkiller we're talking about, if you guys don't know. Whenever we say the word Starkiller, we're referring to this iteration of him. The one that you see on the screen.
With the metal talons and all the lightsabers.
Basically, the best version of Starkiller. I am completely, I completely, am steadfast in that opinion. This is the best version of Starkiller. Alright, hang on. So I told the people that were in before that I kind of wonder if most of our audience kind of gave up as soon as I had to end the stream the first time.
Maybe. I resent it out though. So hopefully some of the people that had joined will rejoin.
Yeah, let's hope so that we can actually get some publicity. Wait, it went down to 2. Who left?
I have no idea.
Dang, people are leaving. That's bad. All right. Anyhow, yeah, let's just get started now because otherwise people are gonna be leaving. People are gonna keep leaving.
Yeah.
Um. So yeah. So how this whole narrative sort of starts is basically so here's what we kind of deduce. So we decided. So Luke at this point is Starkiller's apprentice.
Yep.
Um. So what we kind of discussed before in the pre-notes is that he's going to sort of do what Starkiller did in The Force Unleashed. He's gonna go out and seek different Jedi targets, and we decided on 3 of them. The only problem with that is just the fact that between those 3, um, 2 of them are in the same place at the same time. So we need a 3rd target. Because it turns out, I neglected the fact that Trassa and Quinlan Voss were kind of in the same place.
Where are they?
Kashyyyk.
Where are they?
They're both on Kashyyyk. So so that means that they're now 1 target, meaning that we need a middle target. We need a new middle target. Hello? Yeah.
Let's see. Middle target. Middle target. Middle target.
Who else is like alive?
Who is alive? Yeah. Who
Who's
is
a
alive right now?
who's alive that would be considered a threat enough for Vader for not enough for Starkiller to send his apprentice? Um,
Cal Kestis.
Cal
Cal
Kestis isn't
Kestis.
Cal Kestis is not enough of a threat though.
I mean, Cal Kestis had. I don't. I didn't get that far in Survivor, but didn't he get Vader sicked on him?
I mean, yeah, I guess we can make him the next target. Yeah, he can be target number. Well, let's make him target 1. Let's make him target 1 because, like, honestly, he's gonna be easier to defeat than Quinlan and Trassa.
Right.
So ultimately, he does that. How do we? I think it's pretty obvious. I think Darkseid Luke is gonna win that fight. Like,
Easily, Kestis is poorly trained, or we'll comparatively poorly trained, comparatively weak. So I think, yeah, Darkseid Luke could make very quick work of Cal Kestis.
all right, so that happens. That's just gonna be that's like the Rom Coda mission, like or like the Kazdan Paratus mission. Like they're not really. The next,
Not the Kazan Paratus mission. The Kazan Paratus mission is one of, I think, the most terrible things uh, LucasArts has put in a Star Wars game.
okay, the fight itself is fine, but it's annoying to get to it.
I think it's the other way around. The fight is annoying.
Kazdan Paratus is not a hard boss.
He's a very annoying boss.
Okay, but yeah. Anyhow, so he does that. Now I think where things get interesting though is with the next mission because that's Kashyyyk. So now we have Darkseid Luke fighting two Jedi, Quinlan Voss, Trassa, and then keep in mind at this time Quinlan Voss also has his wife and child.
Yeah,
So the question is, what's going to happen to Quinlan Voss's child more than anything else? Like, do we think that that's going to become anything? Is Starkiller going to take an interest in that, or is he just going to go down with the rest of them?
uh, to Quinlan's child.
And the other thing is, do we think that Quinlan? Do we think that that Luke at this stage could defeat Quinlan and Trassa single-handedly?
Luke at this stage, no, not single-handedly.
Okay, so then what's going to happen here? Because he's going to get like the question is, so we already established just for context, guys, just so you know, we established that we think that Starkiller, as far as capital ships goes, is very much suited to the Vengeance class dreadnought. So we're going to be operating under the assumption that that's what he has.
Yep.
Um,
And what's the armament that a Vengeance class has?
a Vengeance class, it's pretty similar to an Executor class. I think it may be a little bit more durable just because it doesn't have a dorsal cityscape.
Yeah.
So I think it's probably a little bit better defended. But like ultimately, that's not really a major point of the story. It's really just kind of an element though that we had that we just kind of discussed as a contextual thing. But the thing is, okay, so do you think Starkiller is going to like help his apprentice here? Do you think, or do you think he's going to send him and be like, if he dies, he dies? Because that was Vader's mentality with Starkiller, if I'm being completely honest.
Nice, nice. And I mean, Starkiller was able to get past. I guess. Would you say?
Ultimately, the really thing is, I don't think Quinlan by himself would be much of a challenge for Darkseid Luke at this point, because I think that enough, like even a year of that kind of training from Starkiller would still bring out a lot of his potential. But the question is
Yeah.
Trassa. The question really is Trassa.
Well, I
Like,
mean, she doesn't have that many substantial feats, does she? I mean, she is a tree.
I mean, yeah, I mean, listen, I gave her a win in one of my recent versus edits that I uploaded today, but it was against Darth Venemus. I mean, it was not that bad of a fight, and even then, it was extreme difficulty. So, I don't know. But the only thing is that combined, can he defeat them together?
Sorry, what did
Because
you say? I didn't. Your call cut.
wait, did I cut
What
out
did you
for a
say?
second? Did I cut out for a
Yeah,
second? Can he
yeah.
defeat them together though? Because like, yeah, like Trassa and Quinlan in them themselves would probably lose, but together, he's fighting both of them at the same time.
Uh well, are they both in the same place on Kashyyyk? Do we know?
Yes, according to the lore, they were together on Kashyyyk. Like not like together in that sense, like that was not Quinlan's wife, but
Right,
they
because
were
he
in the same
does in
place.
fact have a
They were
wife
in
and
the
a
same
child.
place, and they were associated during their time in exile, meaning that Luke is fighting them at the same time.
Okay. Well, we do know Luke makes quick work of the baby.
All right, you don't think the baby gets spared? Like you don't think he's gonna like be like another like? Do you think Starkiller? The thing is, Starkiller's trying to usurp Palpatine. Do you think he's gonna like? Well, the only thing is that I think Starkiller would take an interest, but it's like Luke is an enforcer. He's not going to be thinking about that in the same way Starkiller wouldn't be thinking about that if about whether or not Vader would take an interest in X. Like Starkiller wasn't thinking that about Maris Brood, for example, as far as Vader's concerned.
Yeah, Luke has been given a mission, and Quinlan Voss is a very emotional, temperamental guy, and I think one of the best ways to get to him would be to kill his baby.
And also probably his wife as well.
Or well, I get no. His son's not even a baby at this point. His son's what, like 23?
Really? Oh yeah, it is true. His son is like 23. That means he's fighting 3 Jedi.
Oh, yeah. Okay, this is going to be a bit of a challenge for Luke then.
Like, does he? Like, the only thing is, he can't die because that would kill the narrative.
Yeah, he can't die.
Do you think that maybe like
And
they would?
his son is being trained by an eventual like Jedi Council master, and also Quinlan Voss.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, the other thing to know is remember, Trasa trained Mace Windu. That's an important thing to remember in all this. Trasa trained Mace Windu.
Ooh, yeah. Okay, realizing that Quinlan's baby is in fact 24 years old, I think kind of changes things.
Do you think that maybe like Starkiller would know that he can't go into this alone? Do you think? I think maybe not. He wouldn't go, but I think maybe Starkiller might be smart enough to send Luke with like a contingent, like maybe
Okay, I can see like a contingent of some troops.
like maybe like the Shadow Guard or maybe like the Purge Trooper Corps, if that's still even a thing.
I Yes, the purge troopers are still.
Because the
Yeah, the purge
Inquisitorius,
troopers are still a thing.
well, yeah, I guess, because even like the Purge Troopers we see in Fallen Order, like I guess the Inquisitorius still exists. It's just a lot of the lower level members have been weeded out. Like all that remains are people like Jarek, but they still technically exist. And then they still have like the Purge Troopers, the Inquisitorium class Dark Troopers. They still have all their units. I don't think that he would send them with Luke. I think what he'd probably do is maybe at most send him maybe with like a contingent of like the Shadow Guard because I'm pretty sure that Starkiller will have control of that because he would have inherited it from Vader.
Yeah. So Luke with the contingent of the Shadow Guard and maybe a couple of purge troopers.
Yeah, I think that that's going to be enough to get him the win just because one Shadow Guard was able to contend with Starkiller before he was in the suit.
Yeah.
So
So
ultimately,
Luke or Dark Side Luke, a Shadow Guard, and a couple of purge troopers.
yeah, I don't think the Purge Trooper is going to get out alive, but I think that at least like Luke will still be around. All right, so now that we had that out of the way, Kashyyyk is secure. So now he's been tested. So now Starkiller is gonna really go for the heart of the problem. And if you looked at like the thumbnail of this video, that problem is Ahsoka Tano. That's the last because that's ultimately the last link to Vader that's still around, and that's gonna be something that's and I think Starkiller's gonna care a lot about destroying Ahsoka mainly just because of her connection to Vader.
And secondly, because she is one of the most powerful active Force users.
Yeah, that too. And ultimately, with that, like the other thing we discussed too is that we think that Ben Kenobi's ghost probably would have gone to Ahsoka and asked her to train Leia, given that Luke is now, Starkiller's secret
Evil.
apprentice. Yeah, Luke is evil now. So I think we discussed earlier that we think that Luke would probably get sent by himself on this mission because Starkiller
Yep.
doesn't know that Leia's being trained right now, so he just thinks he's fighting one Jedi. It's not like when he was going to fight Quinlan, when Starkiller knew he would be going into a fight with Quinlan, Trassa, and his son.
Baby Voss.
Yeah, Quinlan, Trassa, and Baby Voss. But like this time, he thinks there's only one
So
Jedi. He doesn't.
what is Quinlan's son's name?
I don't think the lore specifies. It might be specified, but it really doesn't matter at the moment.
Corto. That's his name.
Corto. So yeah,
Son of
like
Colleen Hence and Quinlan Voss.
yeah. So basically, So yeah, and with that fight, he said with the contingent because he knew that he was going in fighting Quinlan, Corto, and Trasa.
Yeah,
But in this case, he thinks there's only one Jedi. I guarantee it. He's not gonna think that there's. And the other thing is, where would Ahsoka be? Like, what? Where do you think Ahsoka is gonna be training? Like, because she's training Leia. Do you think that she's gonna be training her on some secluded world, or do you think that Ahsoka is still gonna be an active part of the Rebel Alliance this time? Because
uh,
based on all context clues, I don't think she was active really until she went and found Sabine to go look for Ezra. I don't think she was active again with the rebels.
I agree.
All
She
that
was.
the NR.
I don't think she was active. She was off doing things somewhere.
All right, so well, in this case, training Leia, but we gotta figure out what the deal with that is, like where that's happening.
You think she's somewhere in the deep core?
The deep core, that would be a the deep core. I mean, it depends on how much we want to know what Ahsoka knows. Because on one hand, yeah, I mean, Tython's in the deep core, but the other thing too is that I don't. Well, no. Do you think Ahsoka knows that like she's in major danger in the deep core? Because that's where Biss is.
That's true, but I mean, I don't think there's anything at this time. There's nothing major going on Biss right now, right? Like the Dark Empire planning hasn't started yet.
I mean, it hasn't started yet, barring like if you watch the recent episode of the Bad Batch, barring like Project Necromancer, the Dark Empire plan really isn't in like full swing yet. I would agree with that. And we also kind of agreed for the sake of this narrative that we're not going to factor in the Dark Empire plan just because it makes things overly complicated. So yeah, let's see. Probably on Tython. I mean, I could see Luke going there. Now, the thing we established though is that we don't think that Luke would be able to defeat Ahsoka and Leia in one go. In this case, we don't think we think that they'd probably escape in some way.
I think they escape in this fight. They escape in some way, uh, but they do know now that Luke is a force to be reckoned with.
And now Starkiller knows about Leia.
Yep.
Now, we also discussed at the same time the idea that at the same time we have Starkiller who's trying to usurp the Emperor. That's one of his big things. He's kind of following Invader's path there. He wants to rule the Empire.
Yeah.
However, I think Starkiller what I see with Starkiller, what I'm assuming here is that he's going to be kind of like Vader in that he was very in his like Jedi Knight, he was very headstrong, but now kind of like how Vader was, he's going to be a lot more tactical. He's going to be a lot more strategic about how he does things in the same way Vader was before and after his suit.
Sorry, what did you say? You cut out. You cut
I,
again.
I think Starkiller's going to be much more strategic now, especially considering that in his fight with Luke on Hoth in the DLC, he used Dune Mock, which is not something that I think pre-suit Starkiller would have done.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I agree with you.
yeah, so I think with that, he's gonna know. I think he's gonna be smart enough on that note to know that by himself, and even possibly with Luke, he doesn't stand a snowflake's chance in hell of actually killing the Emperor, of actually killing Palpatine.
No, he does not.
Because even at this point, like ultimately, I think I've told you, I do think this is the most powerful version of Starkiller, and I do know that Palpatine was worried about his power, but I still don't think that Palpatine wouldn't win this fight. If it were him by himself against Palpatine, Palpatine still wins.
Yeah. At this point in time, Palpatine versus Lord Starkiller would end in a defeat for Starkiller.
So on that note, we discussed how he might seek out other allies. So first off, like we mentioned the idea that another person who actually had ambitions on the Emperor was Jarek.
Yeah.
So now how do I think that would happen? I kind of think that the Emperor, like, you see, Starkiller's his enforcer, and you think Starkiller's kind of like this is like right after he's been like reborn in the suit, so he's kind of in that immediate loyalty phase Vader had, at least by Palpatine's perception. So he's gonna go send him to investigate Jarek because we know from the lore that Palpatine did have suspicions of Jarek, and because of it, he revoked a lot of his privileges. That is a thing that
Yep.
actually happened in the lore. So I think when that's happening, though, Starkiller and Jarek are going to maybe make an alliance. Heck, if we want to, we can even call it the Vengeance Dreadnought Alliance because they both have Vengeance Dreadnoughts. Um, but that's kind of a joke. But Jarek, now the big thing now Jarek is going to be a big asset here, mainly just because of the Valley of the Jedi. I think that Starkiller is now going to take an interest in the Valley of the Jedi.
Especially given that he has Jarek on his side, and Jarek, as we know, big Valley of the Jedi guy.
Yeah, he is borderline obsessed with it.
So much so, there's an entire game about him finding it.
Yep.
All
So
right, so he's now allied himself with Jarek, and by virtue of that, he has control of the Seven.
yeah. Did Jarek already have all the 7 at this point? I
I
think so.
think so.
Yeah, I think
I
so.
think
I
so.
think so too. Um, so
Because Jedi Knight is after this really. Yeah, I think it's. I'm pretty sure he had the Seven at this time. So he's now
okay.
got the forces of two Vengeances, Jarek, and then the Inquisitors.
Now, as far as a figurehead, do you think at this point Starkiller's gonna be thinking about his rule? Like we discussed, Starkiller. You see, Palpatine has the advantage of even though he looks like he looks like a dark sider. He has like degraded face. That's why he's deformed because he's so steeped in the dark side of the Force. But he's still able to pass off the idea that this was caused by the Jedi. He's this grandfatherly man who wants to just instill order on the galaxy, right, and create peace after a 3-year long war. But if you look at Starkiller, there's no way to really spin his appearance. Like if you look at him, like he's got talons on his fingers. He looks like a murderer.
I don't think right now Starkiller is concerned with keeping up appearances.
So
Right
he's
now,
not.
I mean, he's solely a power and vengeance driven creature who is looking to gain power through the most brute way possible. He's not a very
Yeah, he's not a very subtle
esoteric. He's
individual.
not a very subtle individual. Yeah, that's a problem. I feel like for him, keeping up appearances would be a problem for later. Right now, he's looking at how best to brute force his way through.
So right now he's probably. Do you think right now he's thinking about non-force sensitive allies like the Moffs?
No,
No. Okay. So with that, he's hunting for the Valley of the Jedi. We discussed that we think that maybe after the incident with Luke, that do we think that Ahsoka and Leia would try to start rebuilding the Jedi Order because of the fact that they had just lost Luke and that was very alarming?
yeah,
Yeah, we discussed for the sake of narrative that they would, and we think that maybe they'd find Kakruk and his like band of younglings, and then they'd become like the starting point of the new Jedi Order.
but he's gonna go after Kakaruk, and I mean, there's a chance that
Well, oh yeah, as we discussed, yeah, we think that Luke is probably going to get assigned Kakruk as another target, and Starkiller is probably hoping to some extent that will draw Ahsoka and Leia out.
Leia
They
out.
know what's going on. And we discussed that ultimately it does, and then that's how the Jedi Order starts. The only thing though is how, if they do they find out what's going on with the Valley, with Starkiller and the Valley of the Jedi? How do they find out about that?
Well, I think we can presume one that Ahsoka knows what the Valley of the Jedi is. I mean, she's researched enough at this point that it makes sense that she would know what the Valley is. Um, as per how
The question is, how would they find out that Starkiller is looking for it or trying to use it?
oh, it's a very good question. It's a very good question.
I think that maybe I think Luke, if he's going, I think if Luke's after Kakruk, based on the fact that Kakruk has an entire school with him, I think maybe Jared, like he would be sent with a few of the 7, and then maybe someone would tie that back to Jarek, and then they link all the pieces to the Valley of the Jedi by that means. It's a bit of a stretch, but I think that could be possible.
That could be possible. So yeah, let's go with that. Jarek and the Seven go to Kukruk. They find Kukruk's little school.
Or
Leads
I think
back to that information gets back.
okay, wait. So
They
Jarek
link
is
it
the one who
together.
so Jarek is the one who goes after Kukruk, and then that's when like Ahsoka and Leia intercept. Um, so Jarek is the only one here. They have no idea this. Do you think Luke goes too, or do you think it's just Jarek and the Seven?
Mm,
I think Luke kind of would
honestly,
have to. Sorry.
Luke would have to go. I mean, he is Starkiller's direct apprentice, so he
Yeah.
would have to go.
He would have to go, and ultimately, this is going to be how they link everything to the Valley of the Jedi.
Yeah. So they go. Gets linked to the Valley of the Jedi. Uh, Jarek and Starkiller want it for power. Ahsoka, Leia, and Kukruk want to go there
To stop them.
to stop him. Uh, Somewhere along this, they find Cal Kestis. Cal Kestis gets
Cal
killed.
Kestis was Target 1. He's dead.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So ultimately, then we ultimately get to they. So who gets to the valley first? Who do you think gets to the valley first?
What happened in Jedi Knight? In Jedi Knight,
I think
Jarek
Jarrett
got
got there
there
first.
first.
I think Jarrett got there first. I think that would
Yep.
be the same here because the Imperials just have more assets here.
Yeah. So
Like
Jarek and the Imperials get there first.
so we have Jarek. So who goes down there? We think so. Jarek. We established that the seven probably maintain a post on board the Vengeance and probably some on board Starkiller's ship just to keep them defended in the event that someone tries to
Independent.
board because that's always a possibility.
Yep.
But at the same
Ben
time, and then Jarek, Luke, and Starkiller are gonna go to the valley
Starkiller
itself.
are going to go down.
Yeah, and then that's when. Now, do you think that Kukruk is gonna bring any of his younglings with him into the valley? Probably not.
No, he's not gonna want to risk the future of the Order by bringing his younglings into to Vader's replacement and the head of the Inquisitorius. He's not going to risk it. So it's Kukruk. Kukruk goes with Ahsoka and Leia.
Okay, so Kukruk, Ahsoka, and Leia go. They find Starkiller, Jarek, and Luke. Now, Jarek is he's the one who knows the most about this, I think, out of any of them, so he's probably going to be amping himself the most. Do you think
Yep.
that makes him the most powerful in this fight?
No, I do not.
Because you also said, I think, that you think that he would just go down immediately.
Yeah, that's because Valley of the Jedi amped Jarek, lost to Valley of the Jedi amped Kyle Katarn. And I mean, I know he was using Sever, but still, uh, he lost to amped Kyle. So
And Kukruk would be able to beat him.
amped Kukruk would be able to beat Jarek.
All right, and then now I think Luke and Leia would probably fight each other. That'd be an interesting fight because do they know? I don't think they know their siblings at this point. We're around the time frame of 4 ABY, the Return of the Jedi. So like we're around the time frame the Return of the Jedi happened in the real timeline. I still don't think at this point that they know their siblings.
No, I think they would. Because right uh,
No,
at this point, Obi-Wan's ghost would have spoken to Yoda. He would have been like, "Oh, there's another." And
well, no, I think no. Leia would know that she's Luke's sister, but I don't think Luke would know that Leia was his
yeah,
sister. Leia would know. Luke would
yeah.
not.
So you lose some of the emotional pull that Leia had in Dark Empire, at least when she tried to pull something similar.
Yeah, barring the fact that in this case Luke is just a dark sider who got turned by Dunmok and not someone whose mind has literally been shattered to pieces.
Yeah, minor details.
And then Ahsoka and Starkiller. That like, if anyone could have guessed by the thumbnail of this, just if anyone based on the thumbnail of this stream could have guessed, um, uh, that one of the big fights here also is Ahsoka and Starkiller.
Yep.
Now we were kind of discussing how he'd approach this fight because keep in mind he's very much he's kind of more tactical now in the same way I think Vader kind of was. So I think that maybe he dual wield in this fight just to counter Ahsoka's dual wielding. Though it's kind of a question of is he going to go psychological or practical? If he goes psychological, all right. So for reference, if you see those lightsabers on his belt, those are all actual lightsabers of individuals. One of them is Darth Vader's lightsaber, and if he wants to go the psychological route, I think he will use Darth Vader's lightsaber as an offhand weapon against Ahsoka.
However, he's taking the practical route, which I think he will. He's a more practical guy. He's going to use his Shoto saber.
Yeah, which in this case would be the severed end of Kazdan Paradas' lightsaber pike, because that already had a shortened blade.
Yeah. So I think he takes the more practical approach in this scenario.
And he
uses the Shoto to counter Ahsoka.
All right, so that's happening. So how do you think each? So we have Kakruk fighting Jarek, Leia fighting Luke, and Ahsoka fighting Starkiller. How does this ultimately kind of play out?
Ooh. Okay. Let's think. There has to be. I mean, there has to be some sort of.
I think
There has to be
Leia's
some sort of loss. Jarek got gooned by Crook.
Yeah, because
almost immediately.
Both are masters and both probably know how to use the Valley, which means it cancels out. With Luke and Leia, I think Luke is going to know much better how to use it than Leia, and Leia's going to go down because of it.
Yep.
So, do you think Luke is going to kill Leia then?
Yes, Luke is going to kill Leia.
I think, though, what's going to happen is he's going to kill Leia, and he's going to be emotionally conflicted about it because ultimately they're siblings, and because of that, there might be some sort of force bond. And
they have a connection. No, they do. Well, we do know they do have a connection through the Force. He was able to sense that something was wrong on Bespin, and he's able to sense Leia. So he'll be able to sense that something has gone wrong. So it's going to mess with him.
It's going to mess with them. And then Ahsoka and Starkiller. I honestly think they're going to stalemate each other until what we discussed would be the next act of this whole thing.
So at this stage, Jarek is dead. Kakruk is off in the background. Luke kills Leia. Starkiller's fighting Ahsoka.
I think Luke might try to go for Kakruk for a bit, but then we get to the next thing where we have ultimately the big element of where Palpatine got duped. Where everyone got duped because Palpatine arrives and is kind of high.
So also, Palpatine comes down.
The other thing we mentioned, though, we forgot to mention, is I think at a certain point they would have gone back to the Rebel Alliance for help, and then they would have had a contingent go with them to the Valley of the Jedi. Though there would be a fleet battle.
But there was the Imperial forces were already there from the two Vengeances, so
they're not winning.
Their space forces have been the Rebellion space forces have been destroyed.
Yeah. So, but currently the fight's still, and then Palpatine arrives. I think ultimately the confusion is probably going to set in. I mean, no one knows that Starkiller is trying to usurp the Emperor, and I think we'd see kind of a mix of confusion from the good guys and from Starkiller, kind of a realization of crap, I've been played this whole time, because Palpatine's fleet's going to arrive, and I guarantee you it's going to immediately start firing on the other fleet.
Yep.
And then Palpatine's probably gonna go down personally, have his whole talk about you thought you could best me, kind of whole his whole tirade of how foolish
regular old evil Palpatine stuff.
Yeah, and then ultimately that's where we're gonna see him pull a Mandalore and activate probably both blades to fight X amount of opponents.
Yep. So he's going up against Kakruk, Luke, Ahsoka, and Starkiller. Kakruk falls first.
Yeah, Kakruk falls. Luke. All right, so then we have Luke, Ahsoka, and Starkiller fighting. They're not really focused on each other right now because right now they're fighting Palpatine, and that's a big deal. Now, now we both agree. I think that because of how overwhelming Starkiller is, and the fact that Ahsoka is just Ahsoka, but Starkiller is very overwhelming, and I think that Palpatine's gonna get disarmed in some capacity.
Yeah. So he loses Starkiller due to sheer power of force,
Yeah, but
ends
then
up disarming one of Palpatine's two blades.
and then what about the other one?
He's still got the other one. So Palpatine is engaging, he's directly engaging uh he's directly engaging Starkiller. He's directly engaging Ahsoka, and Luke is ranged assisting.
Yeah, that's fair. And ultimately, we agreed that for sake of narrative, that Palpatine's going to fall. Like it'd be a difficult fight, but
Yeah.
Palpatine's going to fall. He's fighting three amped opponents by the Valley of the Jedi.
Yep. Might add three of the most powerful Force users at present.
Yeah. Um. So from there, we have the next kind of phase where now Palpatine's dead. It's just Luke, Ahsoka, and Starkiller. Luke at this point is gonna realize that he killed his sister. He's gonna be all torn up about it. But then, he's kind of got a choice to make: go with Ahsoka and try to make things right, or go with Starkiller because they finally just achieved everything they ever wanted.
I think Luke's willpower at this point is going to be able to overcome Starkiller's training. Like, yes, he's had a year of Starkiller, but he's also had 3 years of light side training, and he's a pretty strong willed, virtuous guy.
Yeah. So he had three. He had like 19 years of being a good guy versus a year of Starkiller. Like, yeah.
And he's just killed his sister. So I think he's going to be able to break free.
So when that happens, we agreed that we don't think Starkiller dies. We think he probably is going to make a tactical retreat here.
Yep,
And
Starkiller
then,
makes a retreat.
and then
Valley of the Jedi is still property of the Starkiller, or well, I guess now the Empire at this point.
because
Luke
because
retreats with Ahsoka.
yeah, because based on the fleet battle, it's still an Imperial controlled area, and he still has the Valley of the Jedi. So now the next interesting bit here, though, is what happens with the war now, because Starkiller is now running things, and now I'd like to take a moment to kind of discuss how the war would continue and how Starkiller would operate during the war. Now, as it
Yes.
continues. So at this point, Palpatine's death, I think Starkiller's gonna go on Vodka. He's gonna declare himself the new leader, like openly, just saying that I was the second man. So and so murdered the Emperor, and like he's gonna galvanize the population, and then because obviously he's not gonna say that he had anything to do with it.
Yeah. Or well, he's gonna, but he outwardly, it's not gonna be known immediately that Starkiller is Palpatine's replacement.
Yeah, no. What we discussed is that now he's probably going to take a step back and focus on how am I going to lead the Empire because ultimately he is not going to have the face of a politician. He is the face of a warlord, and he needs politicians to be his face. Like, yes,
He's got the face
he's
of someone who bites people.
yeah, exactly. So we kind of compiled a list of a possible. We thought maybe he'd go for like the whole Council of Moffs type approach, and we compiled a
Or
list.
Moffat
Yeah,
to
the
the
Moffrins. Yeah, we're gonna.
cooler
Yeah,
part.
yeah, just for reference, the Moffrins is something from the Prince novels, and just because it's funny, we are using that as the term for this council. We are calling it the Moffrins. So based on the notes, we have a list of 50. So I think that this is going to be kind of like the Grand Admirals, though, a circle of 12. Also, just so we can get
Yep.
out of the way, Saint Pistage and all the other like Imperial ruling council people, like Masamida and all them, they have to go. Like they're not staying. They're not staying.
They're Palpatine loyalists, and as much sway as they have in the government, Starkiller can't risk Palpatine loyalists.
And also, Palpatine is also Starkiller is the kind of person I feel like he'd be like Vader. He'd turn it into a complete military state. He would remove any and all politics from it, basically.
Yep. Yep.
So with that, I think the Mothran's he creates the Mothran's as like kind of the new leading body of the Empire. Um,
And our Mothran's will are
hang on, give me a second to open up like a
we
tab so I can actually get my um. Hang on, everyone can still hear me, yes?
think so. So our
What?
we
I'm
want to get
opening.
this down to 12. We have
I'm opening my document so I can see it too.
Artis Kane, Ray Sloan, Gallius Rax, Brendel Hux, Tigenelius, Gunjer, Tekel, Thrawn, Hissa, Isard, Carvin, Zinj, Pterodok, Harsk, and Delvardis.
All right. So on that
So
note, we got to cut some people.
I think the first person we can cut out is Thrawn,
Yeah, because
given that, well, yes, he's a tactical genius.
he's in the
He is
unknown
still at
regions.
the end of the day non-human and also in the unknown regions.
Like, I don't think Starkiller's anti-alien, but he's also he knows like I don't even think Palpatine was entirely anti-alien, but ultimately he knows how the upper classes think, and he doesn't want to deal with a revolt.
Yep.
So, and also
So
Thrawn's in the unknown
Thrawn gets
regions. Thrawn might be
so
like a secret 13th, but like he's ultimately like he's kind of doing his own thing now. His whole job. I don't even know if Starkiller knows what Thrawn's doing. So Thrawn's out. Let's see who else can we cut. The Battle of Endor doesn't happen, so Blitzer Harsk doesn't go in. But we actually no, the Battle of Endor
and no, remember we Endor still happens.
and the
The
Death
second
Star
Death
still gets
Star is still blown
destroyed.
up, and if anything, it's even easier
In that case,
because Luke's Palpatine's not there.
Harsk still goes insane from his injuries. So Harsk, ugh. Should we
Yeah,
cut? Yeah, should we cut
no
Harsk?
Harsk.
All right. So
Yeah,
then let's see. So we need to cut one more. We need to cut either Artis Kane, Ray Sloan, Gallius Rax, Brendel Hux, Rufon Tigellinus, Joseph Grunger, Milton Tackle, Bertrolf Hissa, Isani Isard, Carvin, Zinj, Truton Pterodok, or Delvardis. Sander Delvardis. I mean, Tackle's a I don't know, like Tackle is high all the time, but he's also a brilliant tactician. Like he was a rightful Grand Admiral, even though he was high all the time.
yeah.
This is a tough one. Like, it's a question of who on
What?
here do we think is the least competent?
Pterodok.
Pterodok. Okay, so we can eliminate Pterodok. Pterodok was just like a feuding. Like he just had a sibling rivalry with his like. He just had a random sibling rivalry with Kosh, and even Kosh didn't even make this list. So yeah. So currently
Yeah,
just in the chat.
Pterodok is easily the least competent member of this list.
Okay, so in that case, for the chat to know, just so you can guys give our opinion, our Moffrents currently, our Imperial Moffrents consists of Artis Kane, Ray Sloan, Gallius Rax, Brendel Hux, Rufon Tigellinus, Joseph Grunger, Milton Tackle, Bertrolf Hissa, Asani Isard, Carvin, I forgot his first name, Zinj, and Sander Delvardis. Anyone have any opinions on that in the chat? Going once, going twice. And we are good. Okay. Now, the next thing to address is how I think Starkiller would conduct himself very differently from how his predecessors did. I think he would lead the Empire much the way like he would lead a lot of like the armchair commanding at the capital to the Moffrents.
Yep, because he's the one out on the field.
Yeah, he's going to be a lot like Darth Revan during the Jedi Civil War. He's going to be leading, he's going to be on site at least the most important battles. And he's even going to take it a step further because while Revan was on site at all the battles, he was in his dreadnought giving orders. I think that Starkiller is probably going to leave that to probably Admiral Piet because he's probably going to he's probably going to inherit
He's
Vader's
gonna,
network.
yeah,
He's probably still going to choke out Ozzel because Ozzel's incompetent as hell.
yep.
So he's probably going to leave Piet in
So
charge of like,
he leaves the large scale command to Piet, but the
and
things he wants done and the important things he wants done, he leaves up to he leaves down to himself.
yeah, like he's gonna go to the surface and probably fight. Like he's gonna be kind of like Revan, but like another step up as far as like being on the battlefield. So he's gonna
Yeah.
fight. I think. What about the Maw installation? What is he gonna do with all those weapons, and what is he gonna do with the Eclipse? Because I guarantee you, he's gonna find it.
Ooh. I mean, the Eclipse will probably eventually become his personal capital ship.
I think so too. It's just that we also discussed that Starkiller is not like a big fan. Like he's very direct, and because of that, being as direct as he is, um, being as direct as he is, like just it could either go one of two ways. Either he's not going to use any super weapons because they're too hands off and too distant, or because of how just because of the destructive potential and just their straightforwardness, he's going to be obsessed with them. It depends. Like, what do we think is going to happen?
I think he's going to be a big super weapons guy.
Okay, so in that case, he's gonna want to keep the Eclipse. He's probably gonna mobilize a lot of the Maw installation, like the Sun Crusher and all that stuff. He's probably gonna keep that somewhere or other. Probably at
Yeah.
the installation. He's probably gonna keep it very heavily guarded.
He's gonna want to be though the one with his hand on the trigger with the super weapons.
Yeah. Do you think he's gonna use them like constantly, or do you think he's gonna use them like? Do you think he's gonna spam them as at every Defiant roll he's just gonna destroy?
Oh
I honestly don't think so because ultimately, like I said, Starkiller is not like
no,
he's not like Kylo Ren. Like he's kind of like Darth
he's
Vader,
not.
and
Yeah, he's not stupid. He's
he's
just angry.
yeah, he's like an angrier Vader, which means I ultimately think he's still gonna fight some battle. He's gonna understand that you can't rule a galaxy of the dead.
Yeah.
So ultimately, we have the New Republic. We have Ahsoka and Co. creating the new Jedi Order with the redeemed Luke. All like, and
Yep.
that's all at the NR. And then we have the Empire under Starkiller, the Moffrons, and then also the Seven becomes Inquisitorius, as we discussed earlier. And we agreed, I think, that we think the Grand Inquisitor would be Saris.
Yes, because she was Jarek's second in command. She was also the most competent of the seven. I mean, you don't want Gork and Pick running your Inquisitorius.
Or even like Baka Seka, who was powerful but just insane.
Is he the floating guy?
That's Ma. Baka Seka is the Twi'lek.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, that's right. Oh, Bach. Yeah, no. Bach canonically has brain damage.
Yeah, no. Do not put it. Yeah, you can't put him in charge of anything.
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
only one
Bach
with
is
leadership potential
canonically
there is
brain
Saris.
damage.
Because Saris also is the only one I think with an apprentice herself. So that too. Now,
Yeah.
the other thing I kind of wonder is Starkiller going to take his own apprentice? Because ultimately, like a direct subordinate, because ultimately he can if he wants to, because there's a lot of people to pull from for that. I mean, there's obviously
Who's he able to
Lumia.
pull?
There's obviously Lumaya, who's like still around. And do you think Lumaya is gonna stay with the Empire under Starkiller, or do you think she's gonna take
No,
the
she's gonna
Challenger?
do her own thing, and I feel like she would have problems being treated as Starkiller's apprentice.
Yeah, she probably like. The one thing I could think of is that she was loyal to Vader and Palpatine, and maybe in the sense that Starkiller is like another Vader, she could maybe. But like, Lumaya is a bit
But
ambitious.
Lumaya's ambitious, and she's not going to want to be under Vader's underling or well, ex underling.
Yeah, because she's gonna feel like it's gonna be she's going a step down.
Yeah.
In that case, do you think she's just gonna split up and do her own thing, or do you think she's gonna openly challenge Starkiller for the throne?
She's gonna split off into her own thing. She won't be an open challenger because though she's ambitious, she's not she doesn't have I don't think she has the same capacity to
Well,
openly go after
she
Starkiller.
doesn't have an entire like empire behind her. Like exactly. Like
Yeah.
the most you can maybe do is like try to is like since is like maybe get the Vong because like in the actual lore there was a brief period where she was friends with Vergere, but that's not really saying much. Because
Yeah.
Vergere,
I mean there's a brief period where Jason Solo was friends with Vergere.
there's a brief period where everyone was friends with Vergere. Like that's not like Vergere is not a reliable ally.
No, she's not.
Um, So ultimately, like I think Lumaya, I think they would probably have a brief like fight. Maybe Starkiller would go actively. Do you think Starkiller would deal with her himself in the same way Sidious dealt with Mullen Savage himself, or do you think that he'd send some underling after her?
Mm, it's a tough question.
Because if he goes himself, I think this will be the way he gets his new apprentice, purely because of one person.
Oh,
Lumaya trained a guy named Flint for a time. Well, actually, no, I don't think. Do you think Flint would be? I was gonna say Flint, but then I got a better idea.
Flint's like Dev Sibwara tier.
So, like, he's not powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah, in that case, Starkiller he probably die in the encounter, if I'm being completely honest. Though I think that
Yep.
there's one apprentice that I think he might take purely because this one person's a very martial person. The only risk is that this person is also very ambitious. Carnor Jax. If he makes it, if Starkiller's war makes it to the Dark Empire era, like that like time frame, not that the actual crisis, that's not happening in this timeline, but if he makes it to that era, I have a question though. What does Starkiller do with the Royal Guard? Because the Royal Guard was fanatically loyal to Palpatine. They were trained to be fanatically loyal to Palpatine. So, do you think they just go to him now, or
I
do you
think
think?
he ends up. I mean, lineage wise, yes, they would go to him. Would they obey him?
Well,
I don't think so.
there's one exception, I think, and it's the one Royal Guard who tried to usurp him, and that's why I mentioned getting the Dark Empire era because Carnor Jax.
Yeah,
That's what I was thinking. Like,
but other than that,
Do you think?
I think the Royal Guard is a lost cause.
Yeah, I think they're gonna revolt. I think maybe Carnor Jax is honestly gonna sell them out, and then maybe become Starkiller's new apprentice.
Yeah,
And I think he's gonna be fighting a war for a lot of time, so I don't think it'll be until he gets Jax as an apprentice that he's probably gonna go with Jax and then deal with Lumaya, and then that's when Lumaya is gonna stop being an issue.
yeah.
So okay, so we have that. Now that's kind of fasting forward. That's fast forwarding to like 11 to like 10 ABY. Even though honestly it could be moved back to like 7 ABY, considering how early this is, considering like how like when the World Guard would revolt and everything. But 9 ABY. Thrawn comes back. I don't think that Starkiller knew anything about what Thrawn was doing. So what's going to happen with Thrawn?
Uh, well, the New Republic is presumably not as. Yeah, the New Republic isn't as empowered as it would be in the regular timeline. They've lost because they've lost Leia.
Yeah,
So
and they're facing a like a Jedi Civil War Revan type empire because of how Starkiller's operating it, barring of course the Moffrins and the fact that it's much larger.
yeah, so I think the advent of Thrawn coupled with Starkiller is going to effectively put the New Republic back down to like Rebel Alliance levels.
Do you think that Thrawn is gonna side with Starkiller, or do you think Starkiller's gonna see him as a challenge? Or...
Thrawn's not going to side with Starkiller. They're both going to be against the New Republic.
But the other thing is that is this gonna become a three-way war? Is it gonna be a three-way faction war with Thrawn versus Starkiller versus NR?
Eventually, yes.
Who's gonna come out on top in that war? Because ultimately, Starkiller and the Moffrins do have all of those super weapons at their disposal. They have at this point, Starkiller has the Eclipse.
Yep.
Arnor Jax probably gets the Eclipse too. Um, the Moffrins has, probably, all their capital ships. I don't think they all have dreadnoughts, but they all have their capital ships. Some of them probably have dreadnoughts.
Yep.
Thrawn's just got some Star Destroyers and maybe the Katana fleet if he's able to find that while everyone else is distracted, which I think he honestly could. But ultimately, the thing is that Thrawn is much smarter than anyone else leading a faction. He's smarter
Yeah,
than Starkiller. He's smarter than anyone on the
he's smarter
Moffrons,
than the council.
and he's
Or
smarter
yeah,
than
sorry,
anyone in the NR.
He's smarter than the Moffrons.
And he's smarter than the NR.
Yeah.
So Thrawn,
So the only thing he doesn't have is the same. He doesn't have the same fleet power that
oh right, because
Starkiller has, because
he had a lot.
he only all he has is the Chimera, the Katana fleet, and was he armed with much else?
I think that's what I mean. He had also like some other fleets from the Warlords, but considering that they're all under Starkiller, they're not going to be helping Thrawn.
Yeah.
Unless maybe they just don't like. I mean, are there any Warlords you think are going to be trying to get rid of Starkiller because they don't like him, and in which case they'd use Thrawn as an opportunity? I don't know. I think all the speciest ones would
I
definitely
don't
stay
know.
with Starkiller, even if they don't really agree with Starkiller on that front. They're just like, I'd rather serve someone who's okay with non-humans than actually serve a non-human. That's probably the speciest approach. But as far as others, I mean, also the other thing too is that Thrawn. I mean, could Thrawn possibly pull the Might of the Chiss Ascendancy if he had to?
No, Thrawn was exiled from the Ascendancy,
Oh,
right?
right. I mean, he still had some allies in it, like what's her name, like
Right.
Aralani.
Yeah,
But even then, that's
and
not enough to challenge the Empire's might at that stage.
that's not enough to challenge the Empire.
How
Uh,
powerful do you think the Empire at this point's at, like Dark Empire level, or
I think okay. So fleet power wise, they've lost the Death Star, or well, second Death Star.
but they have both
They've
eclipses,
lost.
which
They
Starkiller's
have both
absolutely gonna like,
eclipses.
which Starkiller's gonna mobilize. They have the Sun Crusher,
They
and
have,
they have the
and
Inquisitorius
they're not
discipline,
fractured. So they've got whatever warlord fleets
which is pretty much all
there
the
were.
Moffrons. That's the Moffren.
Yeah, presumably. What was Zinj's Star Destroyer?
Iron Fist.
Iron Fist.
They
Iron
also have the
Fist is
Reaper. That's
completed
Kane.
construction,
They also have the Reaper, which is Kane.
and has the Lusankia. No, and but the Lusankia
Lusankya
won't get
hasn't
ripped
been
out of
jettisoned from.
Coruscant
No, the Lusankya is still under Coruscant.
because Coruscant's still under Imperial control. And they don't want to risk
Yeah.
killing all the people,
The
ripping a
issue is
Star
that the Empire
Destroyer out of the
stayed
ground.
unified in this timeline, and I think a big thing of why the NR was able to win the way they were is because of the Empire breaking into pieces.
Yeah, the Empire is now unified by fear.
Unified, yeah, because you have. I mean, of course, you have the Moffrons, which are like an authoritarian council, which people already see the change from the formerly like kind of keeping up appearance as emperor, but um, but like even then, there are people who still know the one leading the Empire is this like claw-handed, like raspy breathing, like looks like a killer, like dark side despot.
Yeah,
And then he has this random sovereign protector as his apprentice because you mentioned Carnor Jax. Now, do you think?
does
Okay,
Carnor Jax Does he remove the Sovereign Protector gear?
does he? Oh, I don't know because at this point he's the only one left, and I think that a big thing he did is that he wore the Academy Master's uniform from the when he took Yinshore. Ever since then, he wore the Academy Master's uniform that he found there. I think that maybe he would do something like no, I don't think so. I don't think so for simplicity's sake. I don't think he changes his uniform.
Okay.
And then as for now, the other thing that I want to think
Yeah.
about though is who are our key players in the New Republic? Who are our key players in the New Republic? Obviously, we have Ahsoka, we have Luke, we have Kukrook and his Jedi. Probably some of who have been trained. Maybe Sabine too.
Han and Chewie, I guess.
I think Ezra too, because if Thrawn's back, then he's back too.
Mothma,
Mothma,
Garm Bel Iblis.
Force Balia, even though no one likes him.
Yeah.
Akbar.
What you mean Vorskfalia, not Forskvalia?
Vorskfalia. I couldn't remember his name, but still, the Cathar everyone hates.
Yeah, Borsk.
Vorskfalia. And then
Eligos,
who'd you say?
Trixmedine.
I think. Do you think Kirkanos, or do you think Kirkanos dies in the Purge of the Guard?
No, I think he dies.
Kirkanos dies. Okay. Um. All right. So Kirkanos dies. But So we have our players. So what do we think? So now the only thing is, so currently now, but by about 13 ABY, we have a three-way war
Yeah,
between
we have
the
the
Thrawn
New
Confederation,
Republic.
the Galactic Empire, and the Thrawn Confederation, or the Empire of the Hand.
Empire of the Hand.
Yeah, under Thrawn. Now, with that, I don't. How long do you think Thrawn would last long, given just the odds he's up against? Because of course he's gonna be able to beat the NR, but eventually Starkiller is gonna overwhelm him, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
The one advantage that Thrawn has, though, is that I think. Do you think Thrawn, before he's overwhelmed, though, can defeat the New Republic? Because keep in mind, Leia's dead, so the Noghri are not going to be a problem.
Yeah.
So do you think Thrawn's going to break the New Republic before, like, Starkiller destroys him?
Yes, because they're already fractured. And the little unity they did have during the Thrawn campaign originally has already been completely bungled.
Because of the
So,
Starkiller thing, yeah. So
yeah.
ultimately, I think though that like the new Jedi Order probably goes into exile on Tython or something to try to keep continuing the fight and like for the sake of honor, right?
Yeah.
But even with that, I don't really necessarily think that like they're gonna continue to fight, yes, but um like it's not gonna be like how do we think the war ends? Ultimately, Starkiller is going. I think what might happen though is Starkiller's gonna crush Thrawn afterwards. He's gonna solidify rule of the galaxy. The Jedi are gonna be still kind of in exile and probably scattered a bit, and then kind of probably maintaining communication in the same way they did under Nihilus. In the same way they
Yeah.
did during the Triumvirate campaign when they were kind of like all like not gathered in one place but still like existing. And then the NR is probably going to fall and kind of fall into several different cells. Basically, they're going to be back at square one.
Yep.
Now, with
Eventually overwhelmed by
now with
the might of Starkiller.
with that, do you think that Starkiller is going to just crush them all? How do you think the war is going to end, and when do you think the war is going to end?
It's going to end a lot earlier than it's definitely going to end earlier than 1980 or yeah, 1980Y.
So like maybe like 13 ABY.
Yeah, 13, 14, 15, around there. Yeah, around there.
13 ABY. Okay, so 13 ABY, the war ends. Um, the Jedi are still scattered, but there's still a force to be there's still like kind of an existing force.
Yeah.
Um, um, yeah, so there's still going to be a existing force. Ahsoka is still going to try to train, the new generation of Jedi. They're probably going to go find other survivors and bring them together. They're probably going to find Kyle somewhere. Like Kyle's probably going to still end up being a Jedi. Same with Jaden Core, but it's going to be much
And
more
Raj
loose.
Pennon and Kip.
Yeah, Kip Duron. They're all going to be kind of scattered though, and they're going to have to try to find um they're gonna try to resist Starkiller in what capacity they can for the time being.
Yeah.
But ultimately, what I think they're gonna do. Well, here's the thing. So now, before the Rebel Alliance comes back, because eventually it probably will, Starkiller has some time. Do you think that Starkiller is gonna go the Banite route and kind of Yeah, and also as Zin the Despot saying here in the chat, Kakuk is still here and he's helping to continue to train new Jedi, albeit they're all scattered now. Um,
Exactly.
but I think
So
that
and
now,
he's got his crop of younglings plus whatever recruits he and Luke are able to muster.
do you think Starkiller is going to try to research immortality, or do you think he's going to embrace the fact that eventually Carnor Jax is supposed to usurp him, like the Rule of Two type Sith?
Uh, I don't think he's gonna research immortality in the esoteric sense.
Like he's not going to get into
More
acting
in the
transfer.
Yeah, he's not gonna get an essence transfer. More so, he's just gonna be too angry to die.
So like you think he's going to become angry enough to the point where he's like Darth Sion and just like every time he's
Yeah,
struck down, he's just going to come back?
yeah. So his final form is like a Darth Sion
Yeah.
ish.
I mean, and he's already being held together by the Sith Stalker suit. So yeah, like yeah, I can see that. But ultimately, I think that war might reignite to some extent with like the survivors and the Empire as it is now. Maybe around, maybe like we could say this timeline's second galactic civil war, not the one from the original timeline. This timeline starts maybe like 21, 22 ABY, and is a fight between Starkiller's Empire and now this new Rebel Alliance. They might start. I think they might start by destroying one of the super weapons. Honestly, I think that might be their first move, kind of like it was with the Death Star.
Yeah.
The only thing is that what are they going to
So they
go
start by
for?
taking out like the galaxy gun.
Oh, wait, does the Galaxy Gun still become a thing in this timeline? Because that was very Dark Empire.
No, no, I don't think the galaxy gun becomes a thing.
Why are you laughing at the Galaxy Gun? That was actually a low-key good weapon.
It's so it's so stupid. No, I don't think the galaxy gun becomes a thing.
I think you feel something tells me you're happy the Galaxy Gun doesn't become a thing.
Yeah, I think the galaxy gun is stupid.
I mean, it's like the Death Star but better.
It's
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 the Death Star but
it's
simplified down to a missile tube.
it's so stupid looking. So is the dark saber.
The Dark Saber. Oh, like the hot Dark Saber.
Yeah, the hut dark saber.
Oh, dude, that thing was so stupid. Anyhow, yeah, yeah, we digress. We digress. So the Galaxy Gun doesn't
Yeah,
exist. That means
the galaxy gun doesn't exist.
so like their options really are the Eclipse, which is Starkiller's ship, the Eclipse 2, Carnor Jax's ship, or the Sun Crusher. And I don't think they're gonna go for the Sun Crusher because while it's destructive, no one's gonna notice if they destroy the Sun Crusher because of how tiny it is.
Yeah. I mean,
No one's gonna be like, they destroyed the Sun Crusher, we're saved. Like, you know.
oh no, they can't go on an angry rampage and accidentally kill Kip Duran's brother now.
Yeah, exactly. So I think they're gonna have to go for one of the eclipses. The only thing though is that those are each the flagship of the Emperor slash Dark Lord of the Sith and his apprentice, respectively.
Yeah.
So do you think that
Do you think they take center point?
Center Point? I forgot about Center Point Station. I think maybe they would. I think maybe they would take it and like maybe try to use it. They would take Center Point.
I can see them taking center point. And if center point is handled properly, no emotional outburst misfirings.
So basically, the Jedi.
Yeah, they
Then
end up taking out they take out one of the eclipses.
which one do you think they're gonna go for? The Eclipse or the Eclipse 2? That it really depends on if they're gonna go for Star Killer or if they're gonna go for Carnor Jax.
They're desperate at this point. They want the fighting to end, so they go for the eclipse one.
They go for the Eclipse one. They go for Star Killer directly.
Yep.
Okay. Now, does Jax get notified of this, and does he come? You know what? You know what I think might happen in this scenario?
What?
So picture this: Ahsoka, um, Ahsoka, Luke, Oh wait, no, hang on. Sorry. I forgot to say something. I said something wrong earlier. So Ahsoka, um, Luke, Katarn, some of the other Jedi that are around right now, right? They
Yeah,
all launch an attack on the Eclipse, right? They board it. They get
right.
through legions of like shadow guards, whatever guards he has now, because I'm sure he probably has some. Now get this. Remember how when a Jedi Strike Team attacked Darth Revan, Darth Malak arrived and fired on Revan's ship and turned on him to try to take the Empire? Remember
Yeah,
that? Do you think that
yeah,
Jax is gonna show up and do the same thing?
yeah. I think it's
You think
rational.
you think Karnor Jax is gonna show up and just and turn on him?
Actually, hold on. Let's think about this.
It's a question. Does Jax
Uh,
show up at all? Because if Jax shows up, they're fighting two eclipses, which is gonna mean that they're probably not gonna win the fight. Because
no,
one
I don't think
eclipse.
Jax turns on Starkiller.
You don't think he turns on Starkiller?
No, I don't think he turns on Starkiller.
I'm just wondering because he turned on Palpatine,
That is true.
and he turned on a person he was really conditioned in a near cultish manner to be unendingly loyal to, and he still had enough ambition to turn on him. I'd honestly argue that Palpatine's Dark Empire campaign would have succeeded had it not been for Karn or Jax.
You know what? That's true. So he turns. So Jax turns on Starkiller.
Do you think he fires the laser at the other eclipse? Do you think he fires his laser at Starkiller's eclipse, or do you think he just like uses the turbo laser batteries? Because I mean, it is an eclipse.
I think he fires. He fires the big laser.
He fires the big laser. Okay, now if he does that, there's one important factor to factor in that will change the entire narrative.
What?
Starkiller and the Jedi may or may not notice what Jax is doing, given that you have to turn the entire ship around to get it to fire in a given direction.
Oh,
Because the laser only fires
that's
straight.
true.
The laser only fires straight, and it's probably gonna. He's probably gonna turn the ship 90 degrees, which takes like what? I mean, it's a giant ship. That probably takes like what, 30 minutes at least?
Yeah.
And then he can fire at the eclipse. So I think what happens there? So Ahsoka and Cove are fighting Lord Starkiller. Do you think that they're gonna win that fight?
If you're taking on the full might of a semi-trained new Jedi Order. So
Starkiller's
you're
outclassed.
taking, yeah,
The only thing is that at this point,
yeah,
Starkiller has
Luke. So you have Luke, Ahsoka, Kyle Katarn, Kip,
Jaden Core maybe.
Cam Solusar, Jaden Core, Rosh Pennon,
Probably not the
Corran
entire
Horn, I
order. Probably
guess.
like just like four or five of them. This is a strike team.
Yeah.
But even then, this is like. Do you think Starkiller at this point has reached that Scion singularity we discussed, where like he just is too angry to die?
Not completely, but he's getting close.
The other thing too is I wonder if he reached that the second he sees that Jax is turning on him.
Mm. Okay, so he sees Jax turning around. He gets really mad.
He sees the ship
Uh,
turning. He sees what Jax is doing, and then he reaches that point where like he just can't be killed. And I think with that he's gonna kill a good like most of the strike team. I think me two. I think Ahsoka, Luke, and maybe Kyle are gonna survive, but everyone else is gonna get blitzed.
yeah,
And then I think Starkiller, rather than letting the fight finish, is probably gonna attempt to escape. I think he's going to escape. Um, Probably fly over to Jax's ship. Do you think Ahsoka and Ko escape the eclipse before Jax obliterates it? Because he's still probably gonna fire at it.
that's it. He fires at it, but he gets hasty. He doesn't wait to turn it around completely, so that so that he like lands the shot. So if he takes
So
out a considerable portion of the eclipse, the eclipse isn't completely destroyed, but it's no longer able to fly, and there was a lot of casualties.
it starts descending to whatever world.
Yeah,
I think Starkiller is still going to escape and go to confront Jax. But I think at the same time, Ahsoka and Luke and Kyle, the survivors of the strike team, are gonna also escape the destruction of the eclipse. And I think that they're gonna maybe follow. They're gonna follow Starkiller to. Do you think they're gonna follow Starkiller to the other eclipse, or do you think they're just gonna retreat?
yeah. No, they'll follow Starkiller to the other eclipse.
Now, I think there's going to be. Now, can I be honest? I don't. Considering that Starkiller, before he was anywhere near this powerful in the first Force Unleashed game, right? Because at that point, he was not nearly as powerful.
Yeah.
He was not nearly as powerful as he is now. I think he's going to be able to pretty easily break his way through like the forces that like Jax has under his command and make it to the bridge.
Yep. He busts through.
And then I think,
He's very, very angry.
and
He is.
this is bloodlusted Starkiller.
Yep.
And then I think the other thing too is that the Jedi trio though have an easy time getting there as well because of the fact that they're going through dead bodies because Starkiller basically left them a path.
Yeah.
And Starkiller's not going to know he's being followed yet because he's too focused on Jax. So
Yep. So
he's gonna get to the
he
bridge,
and he and Jax are. He is mad. He kills the entire bridge crew
including Jax.
minus Jax.
Do you think Jax survives?
He and Jax are. Say he and Jax are locked in a duel,
Yeah.
and
That's when the other three Jedi show up.
that's when the other three Jedi show up. And then at this point, then it's three Jedi versus Starkiller and Jax versus Starkiller.
All right, and then how do we think that fight ends? Who lives, who dies?
Mm, I think with basically with two very powerful Jedi masters and a knight and Starkiller's apprentice. It's a tough fight.
The thing is that Starkiller, I
Jax,
think at this point, is going to be in that Scion singularity because of how pissed he is at Jax.
yeah,
So they're going to strike him, but he's not going to die.
yeah. He's not gonna die, but he will be weakened. He will be he will be heavily weakened.
I think he'll be heavily weakened, but I still think he'll would have killed Jax because I don't think Jax will be expecting him to be not dead.
Yeah, he kills Jax. Uh, he critically injures Kyle.
Critically injures Kyle, and then now it's back to the dynamic trio. It's back to the dynamic duo: Ahsoka and Luke versus Starkiller, just like in the Valley of the Jedi.
Yep.
Except now they're all a lot more powerful. I mean, Ahsoka, I think at this point, Luke is going to be starting to hit those, like not like at them. Obviously, he's going to be starting to hit those post Turn of the Jedi overpowered levels, maybe like a little bit less powerful than he was in Dark Empire.
Well,
And
this
then
is what we said. This is what
23 ABY.
21,
This is 23 ABY.
23.
23 ABY.
Well, if Luke has been nothing but dedicated to the pursuit of the Force, I mean, we're presuming that a lot of the big distractions that he had
Are not there.
so
So he's
are
at,
not there,
would you say he's at Grandmaster level then? Grandmaster Luke level at this point?
or maybe slightly below.
Slightly below. Then do you think at this point do you think Ahsoka is like harnessed the power of the daughter in its entirety? Like do you think she's at this point like near that level? Because she got a
Yeah,
massive potential boost from the daughter.
yeah. So this is Ahsoka. at her most powerful. This is Luke close to his most
Would you
powerful.
say about Dark Empire Luke level?
Uh no, I'd say more around like Hand of Thrawn levels.
Hand of Thrawn levels, and then we have a bloodlusted Starkiller.
Yeah.
And then, just to give you an idea, how powerful do we think a bloodlusted Starkiller at this point is? Given his potential, given the fact that his potential scared Palpatine, a bloodlusted Starkiller, do we think he'd be at Dark Empire level, Dark Empire Sidious level? I don't think so.
Mm, no, but he'd be considerably powerful.
Do you think maybe like by raw power, not by abilities or experience, by raw power, he'd be at Vitiate level?
Yeah, yeah, I can see that.
Raw power, like not like Revan novel Vitiate, not like Valkorian, but like Revan novel era Vitiate.
Just Revan, yeah. Yeah, I
By
can
just
see that.
sheer power output, which
Yeah.
is around, I think, a little bit higher than the level of Revenge of the Sith Palpatine.
Yeah.
Given that, do you think he dies in this fight? Does he make it off this bridge?
It's a very tough fight for Luke and Ahsoka, but I don't think he makes it off the bridge.
You think that they can finally kill
They
him even in that like Scion singularity?
Yes, because Luke and Ahsoka have been they've all Luke and Ahsoka have also been ridiculously amped, and this is like the most direct confrontation with him they've had. So though he is in that Scion state, he's also blinded by his rage.
Yeah, this is the first time that they've met since the Valley of the Jedi when they forced him to retreat, so he's probably still a bit pissed about that, not to mention he's still pissed about Jax.
Yeah, so he is blinded by rage.
Okay, so Starkiller is now dead.
Yep.
Luke and Ahsoka. So now the thing that happens is, what happens to the Eclipse 2? Do they destroy it in some way? Because that thing wasn't destroyed. Because the Eclipse 1 in this timeline was destroyed by another Eclipse style laser, and in the original timeline it was destroyed by a Force storm. I don't think that Luke or Ahsoka are going to be conjuring Force storms.
Yeah, they're not the eclipse becomes akin to like what the Lusankia became for the New Republic.
So it becomes their like, this is our big ship that can do a lot of damage.
Yeah,
This is our one good ship. Like, yeah.
yeah.
So they take it. Now here's the thing. What happens to the Empire now? Do you think the Council of Moff stays unified, or do you think we have a warlord era?
No, now we have a warlord era, then the Vong come and the Vong kill everyone.
You think the Vong just wipe? So we have a warlord era. The Empire in that case is going to be in a terrible state. The New Republic is still going to be gaining momentum, but still fractured because of the damage from Starkiller's reign. Then what happens with the Yuuzhan Vong?
The Vong invade and the Vong invasion is like it's a pretty clear loss for the galaxy. I
I'm,
mean, the Empire is fractured.
I
The
mean,
Jedi
yeah.
Order has lost some of its heaviest hitters. There's no Jason, there's no Anakin, there's no Jaina, there's no
Well, there's no. Well,
Kyle.
there's none of. There's no Kyle because he's dead from the Starkiller duel, and there's none of the other ones because the Skywalker family has been markedly changed by Leia's death.
Yeah. Yeah. The the new Jedi Order is they were half screwed in the actual Yuzan Vong War, but I think given the scenario here and now, they're mega screwed.
Like,
The
do you think any
Moffrons is scrambling,
the
so
Moffrons?
they fractured.
Yeah, the Moffrons. So we have the thing is the Vong. I mean, I don't necessarily think the Vong War would be a complete and utter annihilation of everything, though, just because of the fact that the Vong in this situation are facing a rising, like a rising but still weak New Republic, like a resurfacing but still weak New Republic, and a fractured empire of warlords. Right? That's not
I
much
think if
better.
anything,
That's not much better as far as that's not much worse than having to face them with what in the actual timeline was a weakened New Republic and a shattered Imperial remnant. I mean, the odds are just about the same, if not a little bit worse.
I think they're markedly worse. Because keep in mind the worlds under Imperial control, right, aren't going to be under unified Imperial control. They're going to be under individual warlords vying for power in whatever way they can possible. And the New Republic doesn't have the same like governmental might it did. Even though like the government was failing, they were still the legitimate running government of the galaxy.
In this timeline, the legitimate running government of the galaxy has just fractured into like a billion pieces.
Yeah.
And the New Republic's around Rebel Alliance levels. And sure, they have the Eclipse, which probably helps. But
Yeah.
they're not gonna the Vaughn can't destroy the Eclipse, I don't think, and the Eclipse can probably down a world ship in one shot. But that, let's be honest, that laser probably takes at least a few hours to charge, and you can probably lose a lot of non-Eclipse ships during that time frame.
Yeah.
Now, there's one other thing to address though. Now, if you look at Starkiller's death, right, and the death of Jax, right, that was just that
Yeah.
basically just ended the Bainite line. Because the Inquisitorius under Saris, I mean, let's be honest, what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen with them actually? Like with Starkiller's death, what's gonna happen with the Inquisitorius under Saris?
Same thing that happened to the rest of the Empire. The Inquisitorius is now its own order vying for power.
They're now a warlord faction competing with all the Moffrins ones.
Yeah.
So Saris, I guess, is a war. That's weird. Saris is a warlord is a weird picture, man.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, I guess. I mean, I'm sure yeah, I'm sure there's that. Hissa probably gets Dunhausen, Muzzer and Co. and makes the makes the Moffrins we know from our own timeline. You have Zinj, Kane, etc. Branching off into their factions, all that jazz. But the thing is that the Bainite line of Sith died now with Starkiller and Jax.
Yeah.
But now that the Bainite line's done, what about Darth Krayt? Because I think Darth Krayt, to an extent, was sort of waiting for the Bainite line to die before he made his move.
Yeah.
And now it's gone.
Yeah. So Krayt then aligns himself with the Vong,
Really?
who
Because
are
I think
the
the thing is, the Vaughn kind of tortured him.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right.
Do you think he just do you like the other thing is that do you think he can unite? I think he can probably get the Inquisitorius faction on his side and maybe use them to sort of amidst the Vong War go through the chaos, like the apocalyptic chaos, and go conquer a bunch of the warlords.
Yeah.
Maybe sort of reform the Moffrins, albeit with less mosques or new mosques, because some of them are probably going to get killed, because some of them are probably not going to willingly submit to him. But then
Yeah.
with that, I think with that he'll be more powerful than the New Republic. But will he be more powerful than the Vong, given the Vong have been fighting for X amount of time now?
No, he will not.
Now, who the
He will
who
not
is?
be more powerful than
I
the
have a
Vong. The
question.
Vong, the Vong remain the dominant force in the
You're
galaxy.
the new Jedi Order expert here. Was Onimi the leader of the Vong, or was he just a general?
No, Onimi was the puppet master of the Vong.
Okay, so
So Shimra was their like
do you think
you
Krayt
had
could?
you had people you had people like Sabong La and Sulkang La serving as generals, and then there was Shimra who was supposedly overseeing everything, but it was all being masterminded by Onimi.
So do you think that Onimi and Shimura? Do you think that Krayt could defeat them? Because Krayt, when he reached this is Vong. This is Vector level Krayt. This is not Reborn Krayt. He still has the inhibitions of his armor.
Yeah.
So do you think he can defeat these just these do you think he can defeat what's his name? Shimura and Onimi. Do you think he can defeat them? I think he can defeat Shimura.
He can take out Shimra. He's gonna
But
have a very hard time.
Do you think Onimi could take control of the Vong like after Shimura is gone? Because with Shimura gone, the
Yeah.
Vong are going to be in a terrible position. They might like. Do you think the Vong would fracture in the same way the Empire did without Shimura?
No, because all of Shimra's like all of Shimra's might came through Onimi. So Onimi can take the Vong.
So if Onimi takes control, I think it's obviously going to make things harder. I have a question. Do you think Ahsoka and Luke survive the Vong War, and like how do you think they respond to Crate?
Oh,
Because they're the New Jedi Order frontrunners right now. Them, like whoever else is alive. I really don't know honestly who else is alive right now. Anyone, really, any important Jedi who wasn't on the strike team that went to confront Starkiller.
I guess so. Like that means like Corin Horn, Kip,
Corran Horn, yeah, Corran Horn's still around.
Rosh Pennon, Jaden.
Jaden Core was on the strike team.
He was.
Wait, no, who did we?
That's right. Yeah, he.
I think it was. It
No,
was.
this. Oh,
I
yeah,
think.
that's right.
I think
The
on the
strike
strike
team
team we
was
lost Kyle, Kip, and Core.
okay. Yeah. So Corin's alive. Luke is alive. Ahsoka's alive. Cam Solasar is alive. Tion Solasar is alive. Uh, Green, Kirana T, Tahiri. Why not? Um, what's her face?
I mean, I would say Sabine's
Um,
alive because she was technically a Jedi trainee, but I feel like she probably died at some point during the
She
war with
probably died at
Starkiller.
some point.
During the war with Starkiller.
Yeah. What's her face? The Barabelle.
Anyhow,
Why
but
can't I
yeah,
remember her name?
how do you think they handle Crate? That's the question. How do you think they handle Crate? Do you think they're gonna like? Do you think that they're gonna form a coalition with Crate to take out the Vong? Because like the Jedi and Sith, because Crate has shown an ability to sort of do that because he did that with the Grandmaster Luke in the actual timeline to take out Abeloth.
Saba Sabatine.
All right. So now, how
Saba
do we? Do
Sabatine.
you think the Jedi and Sith eventually put their differences aside to take out the Vong or to take out Onimi?
Reluctantly, yes.
Okay, so they do that, and now here's the question. So then we have okay, so this is 23 ABY. So we have Crate, Weirlock the First, um, Ahsoka,
Wait, what?
Luke,
Weirlock is around at this time?
Weirlock the First,
Oh.
not the third, the first.
Oh.
So we have Crate, Weirlock the First, Ahsoka, Luke, some other Jedi, maybe some other one Sith. We can't really identify them because they aren't really named until the Legacy era, barring Weirlock. Versus Onimi.
Yep.
Um,
And did they break into Vong Central on Coruscant? Uh,
okay, yeah. If Coruscant fell, what? Yeah, which of the Moffs from the Moffrins keeps Coruscant? Which one keeps Coruscant?
Isard.
You think? Oh yeah. Let me look at the list though, because it's Kane, Sloan, Rax, Hux, Tigellinus, Grunger, Tackle, Hissa, Isard, Carvin, Zinj, and Delvardis.
I think it's most rational for Isard to have Coruscant.
I guess, yeah, I guess. The only thing is, I feel like Isard was a lot more brash than some of these other leaders, and therefore made a lot of stupid decisions, like launching
That's
the.
true.
I mean, but I guess we might as well just for continuity, consistency, parallelism, like just to like keep things simple, because that's what happened in the actual timeline. She kept Coruscant.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think I think
Hence
as
why I
soon
said
as the
Isard has
Vong,
Coruscant.
now here's another important factor. As soon as the Vong show up with Isard being Isard, Lusangia gets launched.
Yep.
So that happens. So the Jedi and Sith then kind of they utilize the forces reconquered by Crate as well as some of the NR forces, and they create sort of a coalition. and then they
Yeah.
go and they raid Coruscant, and then you have a big fleet battle. You have the Eclipse, Lusankia. You have all those ships. I think with those, they would be able to stand a chance against whatever world ships are circling Coruscant, while the Jedi Sith strike team go to confront Onimi.
Yes. So they enter Onimi Citadel.
And I think at this point,
Uh,
honestly, I think at this point too, we'd have a funny moment where we have like, you know how like the Galaxy gun was like, I wish we still had that because they thought that was like the Eclipse. They wish they still had that during the Yuzan Vong, where I think Luke said that.
yeah.
Well, I could see some Jedi or Sith, probably one of the Jedi because they're more experienced with it, saying, "Man, we shouldn't have killed Starkiller. This was a terrible idea. Why did we kill Starkiller?"
Could have sicked him on Onimi.
Yeah, exactly. So they go confront Onimi. Onimi now is Onimi fighting them by himself?
So Onimi was in his little like room thingy, and before they got to the room, there was like a ass load of Yuzan Vong slayers.
Well, I
So
mean,
that's what they had to cut through to get to Onimi,
I
who
think that
was
they're going to be.
then
I think they're going to be.
alone.
I think they're going to be successful in doing that because of the fact that Crate had to do that to escape the Vong in the first place.
Yeah.
So they're going to do that. They're going to get to Onimi, and then they have to fight him. Now, how
Yep.
powerful was Onimi? I've seen some people rank him above D.E. Sidious and Grandmaster Luke Skywalker, even though I think that's probably a stretch. I don't know much about him, but just knowing them, I think that's probably a stretch.
Well, it took Jason being one with the Force momentarily to strip him of his connection power.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I would put Onimi at like I would put it realistically. I feel like I mean I don't know. I'm not a big like versus rankings guy, but I would put him on parity with Grandmaster Luke.
Okay, so we have all of these Jedi and Sith fighting a Grandmaster Luke tier combatant. And keep in mind, that's Ahsoka, Darth Krayt, Luke Skywalker, Darth Weirlock the First, and then probably some other just rando Jedi and Sith
Yeah,
versus Onimi. So, I mean, Onimi's powerful, but he's also by himself.
which is still very very dangerous because he's able to like craft poisons and he's crazy force sensitive.
Well, of course, someone's gonna die. Someone's gonna die.
Cornhorn dies, Werlock dies.
Do you think that maybe one of the big two, Ahsoka or Luke, dies fighting Onimi? Or maybe even
Yeah, Ahsoka almost dies, but Dave Filoni comes and rescues her.
that's insane. You know what? I'm gonna let it slide because I want to see Ahsoka fight Darth Krayt. Um,
Yeah, I guess Luke dies.
Luke dies. Yeah, yeah. I guess. I mean,
Man,
the Skywalker bloodline is pretty.
this has been like a terrible year for the galaxy.
Yeah, like Skywalker dies. I think because ultimately the Skywalker bloodline doesn't need all that plot armor, especially because the dark. It's based on the dark siding of the Force Unleashed, so they already lost the plot armor when we started this scenario.
Yeah,
So Luke dies. The survivor, I think Onimi gets killed, but the survivors are Ahsoka, Krayt, and maybe one other.
Ahsoka, great, and Octoramus, because why not? Or no,
Octaramus,
no, not Octoramus. Kent Hamner.
Kent Hamner. Okay. So we have those are the survivors. Who takes Coruscant? Because the Vong are going to be in disarray now, and now it's just picking off the last of them. So once that's done, who gets Coruscant? The New Republic or Krayt?
Well, Crate doesn't have
Krayt at this point
Crate
has
doesn't have
control of
many
like
forces.
Crate at this point, I think because I guarantee, like, I think even some of them probably were present fighting Onimi. I think Saris might also be present. She might die, but because remember, he took control of the Inquisitorius faction, so I feel like some of them, including Saris, probably went to fight Onimi. I think Saris though dies fighting Onimi.
Yeah, Bach tripped and fell down the stairs. He died.
Yeah, pretty much all the seven are dead after fighting Onimi.
Yeah.
but still, Crate has like some of the warlords. Basically, what's left is Crate has this little warlord confederation under his control where he's going to use to make his new like Sith Empire. Based out of Korriban and probably also like Ziost or something. You have the New Republic or the Rising New Republic, which took a hit from the Vong, but is still ultimately rising in power and still has the Eclipse.
Yeah.
And then you have the Vong are being picked off now, and they're kind of just slowly dying out. And then you have the remaining few warlords who stayed independent of Crate.
Yeah.
So how
And
does
then I guess eventually, given all this carnage, something like the GFFA forms.
the Galactic Federation of Free? I think it would form out of the New Republic and the warlords who did not align with Crate.
Yeah.
And then it would now be the Jedi slash GFFA or Galactic Alliance versus Crate in the third Galactic Civil War. Let's go!
Woo!
More war! So now I think I'm just gonna say now I think this war is gonna be the last part of the scenario just because of the fact that this is where everything's gonna culminate because really Crate at this point is the last holdout of the Sith and Ahsoka and Co. are the last holdout of the Jedi. So the Battle of Light and Dark is gonna end here.
Yeah.
So the war goes. Do you think the other thing is I don't think the GFFA is going to be as liberal with their use of the eclipse.
No, they're not. They know the like damage that ultimate power can wreak on the galaxy. So there is a lot of there's heavy disarmament going on.
Disarmament, that's a terrible idea because Crate is still around. I think they're going to stay armed a bit, but they're probably not going to use the eclipse.
Yeah. They're like I'm like maybe half of post Jakku disarmament.
Yeah, about half, including getting rid of the eclipse. Now, I think that's going to make things
Yeah.
hard when Crate finally decides to go to war with them because now they're going to be facing an uphill battle.
Yeah.
So Crate's gonna probably get to Coruscant. He's probably gonna capture it. They're probably gonna go into exile again, but they're still gonna maintain a large number of their force because ultimately Crate is not the worst thing they've faced, given all the things they went through with Starkiller and the Vong.
Yep.
But ultimately, I think Crate doesn't get betrayed because Warlock the Third is not gonna be born yet.
Yep.
So that means that he's gonna stay in his armor. So we're not gonna ever be dealing with Reborn Crate, which is good for the Jedi, I guess.
It's a good thing. Yeah.
Because Reborn Crate was the only Sith more powerful than Reborn Crate. I'm pretty sure was Sidious and Vitiate. So lucky them, I guess, for not having to deal with Reborn Crate. Um, so then we kind of have the last battle. I think we have
It's basically like Ahsoka and
the Jedi
Kent
versus
Hamner
yeah.
versus
You know what?
Warlock and Crate.
You know what I think though? I think Crate is gonna go. I think what's gonna happen is just to bring this full circle. I think that they're gonna retake Coruscant. Crate's gonna escape though. It is but at this point we're gonna be in like 40 ABY.
Yeah.
They're gonna recapture Coruscant. Crate's gonna escape to Rusan. He's gonna try to heal himself through the Valley of the freaking Jedi to bring this all full circle. And then now
Yep.
Ahsoka and Hamner have to go confront Crate and Warlock at the Valley. And then once they get there, just to be fun, Crate found a way to heal himself with the Valley, and now we're dealing with a reborn Crate and by the Valley of the Jedi alongside Warlock. I think the second now it is, which is the female one. So
Yes.
Warlock the
So
second. So
so it would match up to being Warlock 2 versus Hamner and
Ahsoka versus
Ahsoka
reborn
versus
Crate,
Crate.
and they're all being amped by the Valley.
Yeah.
Now I think
I think
now
Hamner takes out Warlock, and then Ahsoka and Crate kill each other.
what I think might happen though, I think Ahsoka is ultimately going to sacrifice herself. She's probably gonna give her energy to the valley, like because Crate's gonna at this
Yeah.
point be reaching really high levels of power, and
Yeah.
she's gonna give herself to the valley, and then we're gonna get like a sort of Force Ghost portal scene where we get Anakin, Luke, Leia, all of them, and eventually Ahsoka when she finally dies, coming in to finally defeat Crate, and then
Yeah.
Crate is ultimately defeated, banished to the Great Void forever. And then his empire falls apart because of it. Because let's be real, none of the ones of this era are going to be able to hold anything together. Because Niall's not alive yet. Talon's not alive, even though I really don't think Talon would be leading anything. Because Talon's just not really. She doesn't have any leadership
He's not a
skills.
leader. Yeah.
She's not a leader. She's an enforcer. She is literally she's a tool.
Yeah.
Um, and she's never had any lore that shows possible ambitions on anyone, so we can't really say anything otherwise, like we can with Starkiller. Um,
Yeah.
but so ultimately that empire fractures. Eventually, it kind of dies off. Then we have the GA, the Galactic Federation of Free Alliances, ruling the galaxy forever and ever. We have what's his name,
And
Hamner,
the Jedi Order run by Kent Hamner.
Ken Hamner, and then it's gonna heal itself. The galaxy's gonna start healing after years and years now of war.
Yep.
And ultimately, that is where the
Everybody
story.
lives happily ever after.
Yup, and that's where the story ends, guys. So Chad, did you enjoy this? No comment.
Well, thank you all for watching,
Yeah,
staying on despite
yeah.
this.
Thank you.
All good.
Yeah,
Thank you for joining, regardless,
yeah,
Histovan.
yeah,
Thank
thank you
you.
for joining. It really means a lot. We will be. I mean, I hope to do a bit more of these on my channel in the future because I already do have some other ideas. I'm not gonna say it, but I will say this. Lord of Edge, I'll tell you it late. I'll tell you later, but in a bit. But for the chat, I'm just gonna give you this teaser for my next idea. I am currently reading the Darth Plagueis novel and really enjoying it. Um, I'll leave you guys with that. So the next scenario will have something to do with the Darth Plagueis novel. All right, that's cool. Nice. But yeah. So thank you guys for watching. This is Sultan Vader
Thank you guys
six.
so much for watching.
I'm
Yeah,
Sultan
this
Vader
was super
6.
fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Signing off now. All right. See you guys.
See you, everyone.